I've come up with a solution. Oh, you can see this lovely new fence that got installed behind us, so that's a nice addition to the yard. But I'm tearing everything out, and I've decided I'm going with G-gauge. I've ordered the track. I'm ordered Gargrave's track, and I'm going to do just a single run because there isn't enough room to do double. So I'm going to do a single run and have a turnout over here so that I can make the circle and come back. Hopefully. Yep. So that's where I'm going with it. So I got a lot of screws. I'm going to have so many screws left over. It'll last me the rest of my lifetime. I can do a lot of wood projects, I guess. It's small wood projects, like very thin wood. And I'm going to be selling a lot of track on eBay. So if you need Menard's track, I'll have it. Lots of it. Well, actually not a lot of it, because really most of the layout now is just the rails, because once I take the ties that I made off, they're just going to be rails falling apart. So maybe I can sell rails on eBay. I don't know, but oh well. Let's keep at it, and at least we'll get most of this done. You notice I'm out here in shirt sleeves. It's October 30th, and it's 73 degrees out, and tomorrow it's supposed to be 77. I'll take it. It's a little unusual, but I'll take it. So I'll be able to get a lot of work done out here. At least clean all this off, so when the Gargrave's track comes in, I'll be able to start laying that, because it's all flex track. It'll be so much easier. So I should have done that from the beginning, but alas, I tried something new. It comes out a lot easier than it goes down. So I'm already at the first turn up here. And that's going to be it for today. And then tomorrow I can most likely get the rest of it out of the way. Yeah, the Gargrave's track turned out to be not that bad after all. I mean, it's definitely more expensive than the Menards, but for what I'm getting, you know, it'll last a lot longer. It's easier to install. I got it on eBay, a couple boxes, and then I went to Gargrave's site to get the rest of them. And it ran me about a total of about $300 for everything. So that's not bad. I'll take that. It's about double the price of the Menards, but you know, at least I know, in theory, of course, given how this project's gone, who knows what's going to happen. I also have to get a new transformer, because the old Lionel transformer is AC and the Gargrave's track is DC, and the trains are DC. And I've also found rolling stock online. You know, it's certainly not as cheap as the Menards or even the finds I had on eBay or the train show, but I can get up and running with a tiny basic set with a locomotive, boxcar, and a caboose for about $500. So that's not too bad. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed in that direction. And my only concern is the turnouts, because when I create the turnout on the two circles, I don't know whether the track will short. Now, if I'm running DCC, it might not matter. And I know most of the engines out there now for a G-gauge are DCC. So as long as there's current, it might be okay. But then again, it might short out, because if we're crossing positive with negative along, you know, coming back in on the turnout here. So I don't know how that works. I'm going to have to do a little more research on that. But the track should be in about a week, and I'll be able to, this will be all gone by then, so I'll be able to lay out the track and see if I can fit them side by side. And if I can, then I can always order more track and make it double track. But I have a feeling that it's going to be quite a bit wider, and it's not quite going to be able to fit in here. So we'll have to wait and see how the Western Highlands Railroad manifests in a little while. It's Sonia. Found out what her name is. The cat next door. Hi, Sonia. That's a big pile of steel, and I'm not done yet. Come on, Sonia, let's go. Let's go outside. Says, no, I want to stay here. Don't mark your territory here. There we go. All right, here we go. So since the last clip, I'm all the way down to there, and it only took me about an hour, actually about 45 minutes. So this is going really fast. I should have this done in about maybe a half hour, if everything goes right. And then I just have to wait. The G gauge track has been shipped. Yeah, I know. It's a hard thing waiting for track, isn't it? I've ordered locomotives and some cars for it. And I've ordered the power supply. So the question will be how to put the G gauge track on there, and then getting the turnouts. I still have to research that. So little ways to go yet, but we're getting there quicker than I thought. So now my goal is, if the weather holds out, let's see if we can get this done for Thanksgiving. Sonia was not happy that I wasn't paying attention to her and just clawed my leg. Don't claw my leg. That's not the way to treat a railroad engineer. There it is, all cleaned up. Cleaned the track anyway. Yeah, so now it's just a matter of waiting for the new track to arrive. But one other thing I have to do down here, of course, is I've got to straighten out that tilted section over there, because that is pretty bad. So that's easy. I just got to unscrew the L trim underneath and then shift it over so that it bumps everything up about a ½ inch, and that should do that. And then the rest of it seems to be okay. So we'll find out in a few days. The Gargraves track has arrived. It's nice. Look at that. It's incredibly light too, a lot lighter than I expected. But notice, I can barely fit. I can fit both of those on there. Now, not going to be able to do bypasses, so the trains won't run back and forth past each other. But I basically can do what I had planned to do with the Lionel setup, so I can run double track. I'm going to have to order more track. I did order another box, or 2 more boxes that I found on eBay. So they're coming in. The tracks are coming in one after the other, but because I'm going to need a lot of it. But yeah, it's going to work. Now, the turnouts, I'm glad I'm not going to go that route, because yes, they do short. I did some research, and the turnouts do short. And you have to get, this is called, by the way, the circle here and the circle down there, that creates either what's called a dog bone or a dumbbell loop. And when you do that, when you come back in the turnout, you have to be able to switch polarity. And there is a piece of electronics specifically for model railroads that you can buy that will do that. It has an optical sensor that senses when the train goes by, and it switches the polarity so the train can come around. Then when it gets back here, it switches the polarity again and the train goes by. So yeah, technically I could do that. The problem is the circuit board has to run a connection to both this loop and that loop, which means I would have to run a wire all the way under here and all the way out there, and I'm not sure if the signal would carry that distance. But at any rate, I'm going to do double track. It's going to be fine, I think. Curves are going to be an issue, because doing double track on the curves, as we saw before with the Menards track, even though I can curve it the way I want, this is a pretty sharp turn, and you can't get a train to go around the curve like this. So I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do. I'm probably gonna have to build out something here to give myself a little more of a gentle curve coming around. Another issue with the Gargraves track is when you curve them, because again, in geometry, the inside curve is going to be shorter than the outside curve. So these rails are not going to be equidistant, and I'm going to have to do some cutting in order to make them match up correctly. So a little more effort in order to do that. However, in the long run, a lot easier. Now, how do I attach these? These are wooden ties. They're beautifully made. And similar, if I can focus here. It's sort of focusing there. Similar to the way I did my plastic ties, there are slots into which this goes, and that's what allows it to do flexing. So it'll slide around in there. They're beautifully made. Real wood ties on this. Looks much more authentic. So yeah, I think the way I'm going to approach this is I'm going to lay down all the straight track first, because that'll be the easiest thing to do. And they will be equidistant, so they'll match up all the way down. And then when I get to the curves, then I'll dive into that and figure out how to do that. So I can do the station, and I can do all this run, and I can do the other run. So, but how to affix them to the composite, I'm not sure, because there aren't any holes drilled in here like there are on like N-gauge, where you have holes in the ties every so often and you can bang a little nail into it. I don't know if I should drill into these. I don't want to do that. What I might find are basically like wire staples, and I'd be able to put them around every so often and, you know, and staple it down that way. That might be a better way to go. So a few more things to figure out before I start, but this is going to be pretty exciting. And my rolling stock is supposed to be here in a few days as well, and I'll be able to see what that looks like. So yeah, so off we go on a new adventure. This project is taking so many turns, it's giving me whiplash. Well, look at this. Does this look familiar? Yeah. It's the old EMDF. What's it doing back here? Well, I've got new Gargraves track. This is O-gauge. I discovered, after much thought and talking with my neighbor Jim about the G-gauge idea. G-scale, I really could only fit one track. And I did receive the locomotives in the mail, the locomotive, and it is so large it won't even fit one track. That locomotive won't fit through there. I would have to redesign the whole station to accommodate it. Not ideal. And if I only run one track, I'm going to have to deal with the problem here, which is that turnout, which would have to be wired up properly. The wiring isn't a problem here. The wiring is a problem way down there. But I'd also have to switch it, which means I'd have to either run back and forth from loop to loop in order to switch it on time so that it doesn't derail, or I'd have to figure out a way to install an automatic switching system, which is not the simplest thing to install. So I took a deep breath, decided to return all of my G-scale stuff and go back to O-gauge, but this time using the Gargraves track. Now, this track is on wooden ties, just like the G-scale, which is really nice, but what I found out on Model Train Forum is that these tend to rot in the weather, which is not really a thing that I want to happen. And I think I can prevent that by putting wood preservative on every single stretch of track. It's a pain in the butt. Now today, it's over 80 degrees in November. Can't explain it, go figure. But it's over 80 degrees. It's not going to last long. If it held up, then perhaps I'd have enough time to coat all these tracks, but I'm not getting all the tracks in because I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to do this. These right here are not flex track. Gargraves makes two type of O-gauge, the stiff track like this and the flex track. The flex track would be great, but I haven't really found anyone selling it yet online. I'm still looking. I found a lot of the straight track that's stiff. And then what I'd have to do is, before I could even bend this, if this was flex track, I would have to make a jig for the different radii I need. So I would have to have different jigs for each radii, and they have to slide into here, and then you have to bend the track around the jig in order to get it to line up properly. And then of course you have the problem of now you have 3 rails that are going to be different lengths in that curve, and you're going to have to trim them, and it's a pretty involved job. So what does that mean? That means that in all likelihood I'm just gonna mothball this until the spring, when I know I'll have more time to work on it in decent weather, and I should be able to do enough research at that time in order to figure out how exactly I'm going to do this. You can get curved sections of this track, the stiff track. I'm not sure how it would made up around here, because I remember all the machinations I had to go through in order to get things to fit around there. And I am not sure exactly how many I'd need, and the track is so expensive, I just don't want to throw all my money at it and hope for the best. So I'm going to carefully look at this. They do tell you the diameter of the track, so I could come out here and do a measurement around every curve to make sure I can get the right ones. And especially down at the big one there, it would probably be great if I could just figure out, that's a 96, I know that, so if they have a 96 that would fit, I could just do that whole thing with curved track and not have to worry about bending it. So, but a lot of things to figure out meanwhile. So this is beautiful track. It really is nice. It looks a lot more authentic. I don't know how to tie this down yet. That's another thing I have to figure out. I'm not sure if I have to just drill little holes in here and put brads in and to hold it in. Jim next door says, yeah, don't tie it too tightly, because this track tends to expand and contract a lot in the heat and cold. So you need to give it room to flex. And if that's the case, I just need to do a little more research. So I have a couple boxes of this flat track, about 90 feet. So the straight track, that'll take care of all these straight runs all the way along. I won't have any problem with that. And once I figure out the curves, then all I got to do is just attach the curves and be done with it. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just put all these straight down. Maybe I can. if I can get the preservative on in time, put all the straight, because that doesn't take any time, and then figure out the curved track in the spring. But we'll see. So for now, I am going to stick with O-gauge. I'm going Gargraves, and I was able to find it on eBay. Not too expensive. It was fairly reasonable. So a box of 20 of these tracks, and these are larger than the Menards. These are 37 inches, so over 3 feet, compared to the Menards, which was 2.5 feet. So a 30-inch section, 20 of them, cost me about $110, I think. So, you know, not all that bad. And the bonus is, of course, now I don't have to replace all of my rolling stock and the transformer and all that. So I get to keep what I already have. Now, another thing I've got to do on this, when I install this in the station, there is no, clip that goes on it like for the Lionel track. You actually are supposed to solder the wire to this piece and this piece. So I'll have to deal with that later. What I'll do is, my thought is, I'm going to solder the wire on ahead of time and then feed it back through there, so I can solder it in the basement and then just drop it in and connect it up to the transformer through there. So lots to deal with over the long winter. If this weather continues to hold, though, I might be able to get some of this done now, and that'll give me less I have to do in the spring to get this going. But man, so it'll be probably a little while before I get back to you again. So have a lovely winter and a lovely spring, and we'll see you, I guess, in a few months.